Welcome back to the Stockwell Eldridge Show. I'm Jason Stockwell with Remax Results.
And I'm Dawn Eldridge with Remax Results. Welcome back.
Yes, thank you.
We had the Dawn and Don show right before you came on.
That's confusing.
Yeah, it is.
Especially for your phone, when you do the voice to text and you talk into your phone, and I say Dawn, especially Dawn because she's really difficult because it's DAWNN. So, of course, Siri's not going to, or voice to text won't get that. But when I say Dawn, can you please XYZ, it's always Don.
Yep.
Don, they don't mess you up. When I say Don, it gets Don, so that's good. But
it does it for me, too. And, you know, these are supposedly smartphones. Clearly, they're not that smart. We're still smarter than the phone, which is good.
Sometimes. So, I apologize for missing the first segment. This is the Stockwell Eldridge Show every Sunday, 10 a.m. here on AM 1280 The Patriot. Check us out on YouTube. We have all this is being recorded and videoed. And then on Facebook, you'll see the videos as well under the Stockwell Eldridge Show. And a couple things that have been going on in the last couple of weeks that I wanted to share. One of them is if you're a buyer or considering buying, or you have a cousin, nephew, niece, grandchild, child who is considering buying a home or trying to buy a home right now, one of the things I'd recommend going to or doing is going to a first-time home buyer class. It's put on by Homestretch. So it's not us putting it on, me and Dawn, or anything like that. It's not a sales pitch. It's actually an educational class that's put on. It allows you to qualify for any programs or assistance that might be available. Some of them don't. To my knowledge, the income guidelines might be not just for low income or low income borrowers, but it's a great class. They have them going all the time, and it also allows you for the $1,000 down program. So if you're looking and you're saying, "Oh, I'm going to lease this property. I'm going to rent this property from Dawn," and Dawn is one of those landlords, if you will, and wants a deposit of $1,600 or $1,700, you could buy a home for $1,000. $1,000 down can get you a home. You do have to attend a class, a Homestretch class, and they have them online. Just Google Homestretch Minnesota, and you'll find them. They're all over the Twin Cities. And I audited a class last week. Very impressed with the class. There was about 10 students in the class, all of them either in the process of buying, all different stages of buying. Some hadn't found a home yet. Some did. Some were closing in the next week, and they needed this as a requirement for their lender. But very good class, very educational, and lots of information that you just don't know unless you're doing real estate sales all the time or you're in the real estate business. And that would be very, very helpful for anybody that is buying, because it's not something you do every day or every year for that matter, and especially if it's your first time.
Well, some people do, but...
Some people do, but if you're a first-time buyer, I would highly, highly recommend that.
Is that available only for first-time buyers, or can anybody go?
Anybody can go, yes, and even that, it would help out. So one of these days I'm going to propose that, and maybe now, I don't know, we'll see how it goes with the education funding and things like that that's going on. But they should actually have a class in high school or in college for sure, and some of them probably have some of this, but it should be taught by realtors, and it should be a real estate class. It doesn't have to be a full semester even. It could be a half a semester class or something like that on home ownership as an elective.
Yeah.
Because some of the population won't necessarily buy a home, but some of them will.
Yeah.
And they should do something like this to educate buyers on the process of buying a home, because there's so many questions and there's so many things that are not known that would be helpful when you go in and buy a home.
Or help with your credit.
Getting you ready. When I bought my first home, you know what I did? I wasn't licensed. I saw a couple infomercials on real estate on TV. Went to a real estate seminar where the guy was a multimillionaire from Florida, and he wanted everybody to pay $10,000 so he could teach them his tricks. I didn't sign up for it, by the way, but I said I wanted to buy a home. So someone says, "Hey, you got to talk to a lender." So I talked to a lender. She got me pre-approved. She said, "Here you go, you're pre-approved." I said, "Okay, I'm just going to go swing around, look at some open houses in February." I wasn't supposed to close or buy anything until July because that's when my lease was up. And I walked into a house in February, fell in love, and other people were there. They wanted to buy it as well. I just went to the agent that was there and said, "Hey, I want to buy it. What do I do?" And he said, "Well, here you go." And he was smart. He had a full contract there, ready to go. And we walked through it, filled the whole thing out, and I bought it.
Wow.
And I had no idea what was
Do you
going on.
remember who that agent is still or not?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. I
So
still,
you know.
he
That's
collects
cool.
old cars, collectible cars. He's a nice guy. I don't know if he's still in the business or not, but and maybe that naivete or whatever they call was good, because had I probably known a lot more, I maybe would have not pulled the trigger that quickly. So it helped me get the property. But I also had no negotiating ability. I didn't ask for anything because, I was just like, hey, what do I offer? He goes, well, here's our list price. I said, well, what do I offer? He goes, well, here's our list price. I said, okay, I get it.
So my first house that I bought, I was also not a realtor. I bought it in 1999. It was a duplex. I still own it, but we were going FHA, and we agreed to, because the house had peeling paint everywhere. We agreed that we were, my friend and I, we bought it together. We were going to paint the outside of the house ourselves
Yeah.
so that it
Oh,
could
it
close.
passes FHA.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we go out there, and we've got our little hand saws, and we're sanding down. And I'm like, okay, well, we can get this done in a weekend. No problem. And my friend Tim is like, oh, no, we'll get it done today. 4 hours later, I have a 1 foot by 1 foot section of sanded off wood, and I started crying. I'm like, we're never going to get this done. What did we just do? I don't know what
my
we're
gosh.
doing. So it took us a month, and we finally...
It took you a month?
It took us a month.
Gosh.
Well, we painted it ourselves. We had the ladders. I mean, we had to paint everything. It was intense, and
Do you
the
know
closing was not
contractors
fun
that you
either.
hire? Okay, so let me get this straight. Contractors that you hire to paint a house, they would have that done in a day,
I know.
probably.
Yeah.
I've never painted a house before, so I'm trying to get down to the bare wood.
Oh my gosh.
Which we gave up on that too.
Yeah.
We ended up power washing the house, and oh my gosh, it was a nightmare.
That's a good point, though. That's a great point, Dawn. Is if you're an FHA buyer, which many of the students in the class were FHA buyers, the instructor said there's a potential that if you fall in love with a home or you go for a foreclosure or some of these things that look like a great deal, you got to be careful because you probably aren't going to be able to qualify for that with FHA financing unless you're allowed to do some of that stuff ahead of time or willing to do that stuff ahead of time or maybe even spend some money ahead of time, where that's a risk too, because if you do the work ahead of time or spend money ahead of time and it doesn't happen, now you've improved the property and you're not able to buy it. And that's actually happened to people.
Yeah.
Where they've spent, it wasn't my client, she became my client, but she had spent $9,000 getting the home ready to pass FHA in St. Paul. And about a week or 10 days before closing, the lender said, I'm so sorry, you cannot buy this. You don't qualify for it.
Oh no.
Now, her agent didn't know what to do. She had an attorney been working on it because it was a short sale. So luckily, the attorney called me and said, hey, would your company buy this and then sell it to the client on a contract for deed so that she doesn't lose her money and she has a home, and then she can refinance out once she gets her mortgage approved in a year or so, or maybe 6 months or a year or whatever it was. And we were able to do that or structure that scenario where it worked out like that. Now, not every agent, in fact, most agents would not do that or have the ability to do that. So it actually worked out really nicely that we were able to do that. And she's still a client. We actually sold that house. She's buying another one in West St. Paul, a little bigger, and for her daughter, or for her and her daughter. So it worked out really nice. But that's a great point on the FHA, is that FHA has a limited ability on remodeling, and unless you do a 203K loan. And
Yeah.
Stephanie, speaking of that, Stephanie's not here. Stephanie, we're
Nope,
missing
she's
Sparkles
not.
today. She's doing something for work, I imagine, right?
She's
Or is she
taking
partying? I don't-
continuing ed.
Oh, she's
I did hear that she was out at Lake Minnetonka at Lord Fletcher's having
Oh,
happy
yeah,
hour. Yep.
No,
And
Stephanie.
Don's meeting her over there after this.
Oh, yeah.
so.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So we missed Stephanie Havel. She's coming back, I'm hoping, next week, and we'll get the lowdown on some of the things that Wells Fargo is doing and what they have for programs. But they would have a program that's available as well, which is 203K for your remodeling. However, again, that's going to limit you because if you're a seller, the order of preference for your buyers. So put yourself in the seller's shoes and look at the world from their perspective. Your order of preference is if someone comes in with a cash offer, that's number one.
Yep.
A conventional is number two because they're not as stringent on their appraisal, and there's more money down usually. And then behind that is the FHA, and then behind that, way in last place, is the FHA 203K.
What about the VA loan? The VA
VA
loans
would
have
be
really
up by
changed.
conventional, I'd
Yeah.
say.
I mean,
probably,
they're awesome.
Yeah, VA's been really good.
Yeah, they've. When I started in real estate, the VA loan, a lot of people had not issues with, but they didn't always want to do them because all the fees ended up to the seller. And now the VA loan, you're able to assign whether the buyer is going to take them
Buyer
or the seller, which is
Yep.
huge. So it is just like a conventional loan now.
Yep.
It's great. And they don't have to put any closing costs down.
Yeah,
Which is
zero down.
amazing.
It's a good program.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we've had a lot of VA buyers in the last year and a half.
What's the rate? VA.
Usually it's better than, I think it's better. Well, in the
It's
jumbo
at-
market, it's better than a jumbo loan. Because I just had clients that use their VA to purchase a very high-end home.
Yep.
They save 2% over doing a regular jumbo loan, which I was floored by.
And VA isn't, I was surprised by that too. You can buy a 900, a million, 800, a 700
Yeah.
with a VA loan. Obviously, it's probably a little more details on that type of loan. I talked to a lender on that one, but it's happened. We sold a house in Edina that was $930,000 to a VA buyer with a VA loan. I didn't think it was going to happen, but it did. And then you just had one that was a higher end one where
Yep.
they did a VA loan. So
I think that's a great thing that the veterans are able to get. I mean, anything that we can do to help the veterans, I think.
So
is
I'm not a
huge.
lender, so I'm allowed to talk about rates, I believe.
Yeah.
There was a rate. We just had a closing, and the rate they got on a 10-year ARM, which we talked about the possibility of an ARM as a viable option because you're probably going to refinance or sell. But they did a 3.25 on a 10-year ARM.
Wow.
With principal and interest. It's phenomenal.
Cheap.
Phenomenal.
Beats renting.
Oh, by far. So we'll be back with more. I want to talk a little bit about a sale that's happening and how we got through it because there's a lot of issues in real estate and there's a lot of hurdles. You got to
Yes,
get over
there
those
are.
hurdles. So we'll be back with talking about some of the hurdles and how you can avoid them or hopefully get through them. Stay tuned, folks.